take a look at what's behind me, that picture behind me, that is Megaforce. And this is, what the hell is this? Now, Megaforce was a mega bomb. This was a film produced by one of the producers of the Bond series, Albert Ruddy, who was Bond till the late 70s. When he got in debt, so he sold his shares to Broccoli. And but even after that, he still produced films, including Megaforce. So they've tried to do a Bond film from America and try to do a kind of 80s Bond film type of thing. He hired Hal Needham, who was off Smokey the Bandit, Cannonball Run, and Smokey the Bandit 2. So he was having a run of successful films financially. Not critically, Hal Needham never got good reviews. And this was when he was starting to go towards his films bombing. Like, the tide had turned at this point. So Megaforce bombed. The Cannonball Run 2 coming out after this, which was called one of the worst films ever made. And he just continued down a track of failure. But Megaforce is amazing because it makes mistakes in every way possible. But it does them perfectly. Like, this is one of those perfect cult disaster movies where everything is wrong, but it's perfectly wrong. Like, everyone is perfectly miscast. It looks like a TV movie half the time. The plot doesn't make sense. It's an action movie where no one dies. It's utterly insane. And it's a product of the... Look at that headband behind me. It's a product of the 80s. It's so 80s and so militaristic and so weird that it's just wonderful. It stars Barry Bostwick, the guy who was in Rock Horror Picture Show as Brad. He is with a beard, with a headband, and the designers of the costumes were toy manufacturer costume designers, and all the costumes look like they should be in a toy. So they walk around this whole facility wearing these costumes that look absolutely absurd. That's the level of weirdness. The costumes in the field are basically like one-alls, and they're all shiny, and they look absolutely ridiculous. The whole film is ridiculous, and about 20 minutes in, you know it's ridiculous. You know it's a bad film from about 2 minutes in, but when it's about 20 minutes in, you know this is a great bad film. It's a keeper of bad film. This is something else. This is beautiful. This is just insane. I don't even know how to explain the plot because there's barely one there, and it's just ridiculous. Well, basically, Megaforce is a template that would dominate 80s TV. I mean, Knight Rider, Street Hawk, Airwolf. This idea of a militaristic peacekeeping force that obviously is American. It's obviously against the communists, so it's not really a peacekeeping force. But in America, they say it is. And there are all these gadgets that don't actually work in real life. And no one dies. And it's a very much a TV show, but they're done a big budget. And this is like, I mean, it's one of the supporting actors is a guy who played the Michael Knight's boss in Knight Rider. And he's a plumb British accent. He's in this. I think they made this one just before he got that job, so he pretty much went from this to that. From a disaster to a big hit. They've got various other actors you've seen in other films. The bald woman from Star Trek Motion Picture, now with hair, because she was Indian. So she's used as someone from the Middle East region. And let's not be too specific about it, because we don't want to answer any questions to American. And she's stiff as hell, but she does such a terrible dialogue in it that you can't believe the actress is like, no one can survive this dialogue. Nobody. You know, the lead guy from The Warriors, who was also in Xanadu, and he's playing a Texan with his weird accent, and he's a buddy with Barry Bostwick, and they have more chemistry than the leading lady and Barry Bostwick. It's like it's almost like a gay love story, you know, unacknowledged, which is what you need in these kind of 80s right-wing movies. Because it is a right-wing movie. It's a real right-wing movie. But it's so absurd and so campy. And I heard that the guys behind South Park love this one because it's so absurd. And you can tell it had a massive impact on Team America. You know, it's just insane. And the weird thing is, it has barely a plot. Like, the first half of the movie is they bring up who the villain is and what he's doing. And the second half of the movie is they go in to stop him. So it's like a 90-minute movie where basically the first half just set up. But the setup is so absurd with these weird costumes. It takes you about 20 minutes to get to the hideout. Because they're going to the desert and then have to wait for a bit. And then a van comes to pick them up and they throw the security stuff to get to this desert hideout where you find these guys all doing their bike stunts. They're all on bikes. They're all doing these weird bike stunts, including Barry Bostwick. And it's like, all that set up for this absurd thing. And that's when you know you're into a whole new level of bad. A whole wonderful level of bad, because it's so absurd, these bike stunts, after all this setup. And terrible setup of that for this absurdity, this just 80s campness. And it's like, and they're wearing these tight costumes that look like they should be worn by the village people. Like, every costume in this movie looks like it should be worn by the village people. And they go to this massive indoor structure with all these technologies, like all these tanks and stuff. But they all love their bikes. They're into their bikes. That's their big thing. They're into their bikes. But they've got all these other things as well. And it's this massive base, underground base. It's top secret. And of course, then they go to do the mission. The mission goes to hell, and everyone knows who they are. It's like, well, that just invalidates the first half of the movie. But you don't. That makes it even better because it's so stupid. It's like, but you can feel if there had ever been a sequel, they'd still be a top secret organization. No one would know who they are, you know, because nothing matters. There's nothing in this film that matters plot wise. It's all about the bikes. It's all about the buff guys looking at each other and love each other. That's what it's about. One of the really absurd things is the love story between Bostwick and the Middle Eastern girl. A lot of the jokes end up with them going like this to each other. They don't want to touch. They don't want to do anything. Just that's the idea of a love connection. It's absurd. It's so childish and so girls. Ooh. It's hilarious. It's so bad, but it's wonderful. Every time they do it, it gets funnier and funnier. In the second half of the movie, when they're in their mission, they go into the mission and they blow up this town in Middle East and they destroy it, which is the kind of one of the headquarters of the villain. They try to draw the villain back over the border so that the troops, because he keeps on causing trouble, but he doesn't go over the border so no one can attack him. So they try to drag him over the border. He gets wise to the thing, but you get a whole section with the Megaforce and their bikes and a few little tanks blowing up this town, this Middle Eastern town of a country no one knows the name of because it's made up. And then they go on a run. They find a fueling depot which have planted down for a top secret organization, right? Plonked down so they can refuel. The film's full of this kind of stuff. It's like, you're meant to be an invisible organization. Just take the pure petrol in your trucks. It would be simpler. But no, they actually plonk it down. And that's where the villain catches up to them and he tells them, oh, by the way, you can't cross the border now because your troops who were not meant to even know you exist, now know you exist, and they'll kill you if you go to the border. So tough. Either surrender for us or we'll kill you. So then they bring the planes in. They have to reach a destination and get into the planes and blow up the technology they have that they can't take with them. And that's the finale of the film. And as they're going over they have to go over this whole desert field, right? So they have to come behind the villains, attack them from behind. Don't be dirty. And then smash through their ranks and destroy them before they can attack them, and then go into the plane as it lands. And as they're doing it, they have the rainbow colours of smoke come from behind them to obscure the view of the villains. Rainbow coloured smoke. This was the 80s. They didn't realise where this rainbow colours were going to go. It's astonishing, this film. It's like it's so right wing, and they just don't have a clue where the world's going to go immediately after this film was released. I'm not sure Rainbow Colours was a gay thing before this film was released, and no one knew. All I know is nowadays you can't help but think, oh my god, this is so perfect. This is amazing. And there's a whole bunch of explosions there, and no one seems to get hurt, but things blow up, just like the A-Team and Knight Rider and things. And there's lots of people doing this. It's astonishing. It's wonderful. The whole attack in the Middle Eastern town is the most bloodless attack ever. The whole film is astonishing. It's just like, what were they thinking? You've got romances with this. You have rainbow-coloured smoke as they're escaping from the villains. You've got a top-secret organisation who can't keep secret anything because they bring them so much technology. They're meant to be multinational, but they're all American. It's just amazing. It's just astonishing. If you want a perfect 80s movie, this is it. This is like the one of the great bombs of the 80s. This is, you couldn't make this up. It's like, at every point, there should have been like warning signs in this film saying, do not do this. It's like every point there should have been, and they kept pushing through that and saying, that'll be fine. Like, the costumes of the people on the bikes, that's fine. The futuristic bikes that look like they're just normal bikes with stuff chucked on them, and they look ridiculous. The bikes that can fly that look exactly like the bikes from Galactic 1980, which was viewed as one of the worst TV shows ever. All the bikes look like those bikes, and they can fly just like the bikes in the Galactic 1980. It's like you're actually stealing from one of the most notorious bombs ever. And it's acts as if it's cool. You've got these weird tanks that blow things up but no one gets hurt. It's just, and the plot meanders from one big to another. It only has like one or two big action scenes, and none of them are actually that impressive. But there's lots of things blowing up and people flying through the air, like it's the A-Team. You just couldn't make this thing up. I mean, their base in the desert looks like a base from a Godzilla movie. I mean, you think that they were designed by Japanese designers from the 60s Toho era. That's what it feels like. And the plot feels like it was written from somebody in the Toho era in Japan who was drunk as hell. This whole plot feels like a subplot from a unmade Godzilla movie. But they get rid of the kaiju and just had the futuristic people on their bikes blowing stuff up. That should have been a 60s Toho movie. You know, with a lot of Japanese people on the bikes and a few Americans actors who are slumming. That's what it feels like it should be. Instead, it's even more glorious. It's an 80s jingoistic movie that's rainbow colours, and it defies belief. It's so 80s and so weird, but it's wonderful. Like, release the 4K. Just release the 4K in this one. I'll buy it. Just release the 4K. This is astonishing. This one's amazing. This is probably my favourite of what the hell is this films released so far. It's probably one of the worst ones, but it's definitely one of my favourites. It's just so wrong. So see this if you can. This is astonishing. This one's utterly astonishing. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's got you inspired to go see Megaforce, because this one is something special. Alright, that's me for the week. I'm back next week. Unless the weather gets too good again. Right, bye for now.